So we'll start off with the most current question. How are things going on campus given the circumstances?
Are you talking COVID? Are you talking different cultures? Lots of things are happening on our campus.
That's so true. Let's start with COVID.
COVID, right. We are very fortunate that we have a very low incidence of COVID on our campus. We're doing pool testing so we can look at asymptomatic students, faculty, and staff, and so far we have 5 active cases that are going right now.
We've seen at other SUNY schools, some of the off-campus activities have been the most problematic. What has that been like here?
We have been very fortunate that we have a great partnership with the Village of Brockport. So the police are working very closely with us. If there are any concerns over noise, they're very actively going to those places and saying, hey, what's going on? We've had a couple of incidences, but actually our students are doing a really great job of what we call protecting the nest. That is keeping Brockport where we are.
How clever,
yes.
Given the Eagle. Where do you see this going as winter does settle in?
We are working towards a deadline of making sure our students are with us until Thanksgiving, and then we're going fully remote. That's our plan. It's our hope that we will be able to get to that point, but of course if we end up having a surge of cases, as other campuses have had, we'll need to go on a pause for 2 weeks. I don't see that happening unless things change radically. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for sure.
Does that impact the spring semester then?
Spring semester is actively under conversations right now. First things first, we're not having spring break. That's a real sad thing for most of us because spring break is that rite of passage and people like to have a break from what they're doing, but it doesn't make sense for us allowed to do that right now. We're also looking at how will we start the semester? Will we start remotely? Will we start face-to-face? All of those conversations are continuing right now.
Let's say a vaccine does come and post-spring semester, sometime in the summer, we're past this. Let's hope. How does all of this change the way this school operates?
You know, there are some things that will go back to whatever normal is supposed to be. Students back on campus full time. We wouldn't have the kind of social distancing that we're required to do now. But some of what we're learning is that we have a great opportunity to support students learning virtually as well as face-to-face. And we're going to continue to invest in that because our students want it and we want to do it well.
How has this impacted the Excelsior program?
As far as we know right now, the people that were with the Excelsior program previously are still getting some funding. New applicants, we're not entirely sure how that's going right now. We're really dependent on the state to make sure there's funding for that program.
If you had a magic lamp with a genie inside, what would you wish for at this point, realistically?
In relation to funding or
in relation to COVID, like what would you like to see happen, move forward?
So I'm very hopeful that we'll get a vaccine. I'm very hopeful that it will be readily available and that we'll be able to have next year as a real academic year from beginning to end with everyone re-engaging in the kind of activities and events that we always have. Last weekend would have been homecoming for us. It was really disappointing for us not to be able to do that. We did a virtual Spirit Week and we did a number of things that we could get together socially distanced, but it wasn't the same. I'd love to be able to return to a time when our students have both the co-curricular as well as the curricular opportunities that they normally have.
Moving on to that other big issue, race relations on campus. Where does that stand from your vantage point?
So we're working really hard to make sure our campus is open and inclusive and welcoming of every student, faculty, and member of staff on our campus. We have work to do in that area, and I won't deny it. It's really important that we address head-on the fact that we've got to have very difficult conversations at times about how we can be as open and welcoming as we can be. And we're making great progress in that area.
When you read the climate report last fall, what were your thoughts when you were reading through that?
So my thoughts were that we had some really important work to do on making sure that everyone was equally able to feel part of our campus, that everyone felt that they had an opportunity to contribute to the values and the goals of our campus, and that they knew how to make sure that their career could be successful here. One of the goals of our strategic plan is to be a great place at which to work, and I want that to be true for everyone. And the same is our goal for a great place to learn. I want everyone to feel this is a place that they can learn and learn successfully.
Were you surprised by anything you read in the report?
I was saddened by things that I read in the report. It was clear to me we needed to do more communication, we needed to do more outreach, and we needed to have further conversations about how to do those things that we weren't doing as well as we needed to.
A lot of that is communication. Did you see any structural issues that needed to be.
Absolutely, and we've been working on that. One of the things that's been very important is that we review how we recruit and how we promote individuals, and how we ensure that students, faculty, and staff know about those processes so that it's clear and transparent for everyone. So we've invested in a diversity recruiter who's looking at opportunities for a diversity recruitment plan and doing things differently. We've looked at how we can ensure that our search committees have better training so that they are ready and able to welcome a wider range of individuals to our campus. And we're looking at how we can actually promote people through a process that is fair and unbiased.
Last fall, you did release the findings of the climate report. One of the criticisms I read about was that the full report wasn't released until the start of this year after the whole Cephas-Archie issue. What's your response to that observation?
We thought the most important thing to release were the recommendations, and we started to act on them immediately. The report itself was a very short report, and I wasn't sure how much more helpful it would be to have the full report. We heard the people wanted it, so we released it.
What's your position right now as far as talking about the Dr. Archie departure? Are you in a position to get into any details?
So personnel matters are always private, and we deal with those confidentially. What I can say is we're actively searching for a new Chief Diversity Officer, and I'm excited about the process there.
The students obviously went out and they rallied demonstrations last year in support of Dr. Archie. Do you feel like if they knew what had happened behind the scenes, something that we don't fully know, they would think differently?
What I think I heard from the students is that they need people to support them and hear their voices. That's what I heard most of all. I heard hurt and anger in their hearts and their minds and what they said. And that's what I really want to address. How can we ensure that our students feel safe and feel a sense of belonging here? How can I ensure that they have many people to turn to when they have questions, concerns, or things that they want to know more about in relation to their academic careers? That's what I'm focused on, to support them in their growth going forward.
Do you think, though, their perspective might have been influenced had they known more about the situation?
I know that everybody always wants to know details about things, and that's the most frustrating part of anything. But unfortunately, we can't share those details, so what we need to do is look to the future.
Right. But do you think that there are details there, not getting into specifics, that could have shaped the conversation?
I think that individuals would like to see more than I've been able to say, but unfortunately that's not something I can go into. So that's where we are. The
EDI report that came out talked about things that have already happened on campus, changes that have been made. Which 2 or 3 changes stand out to you?
I'm really excited about our new Intercultural Center. Our new interim CDO, Chief Diversity Officer Lorraine Acker, brought the idea to our campus, and within the space of a couple of months we were able to find a space, set it up, find a donor that would help us with the naming of that space, add staffing to ensure that we had a space for students and programming, and now we're in the process of being able to work directly with our students as co-creators of what do they want to see there, how can that space best promote their learning, how can they be civically engaged as part of that. So I'm really excited that someone could have an idea and we could implement it within the space of a few months. To me, that is amazing and astonishing. And another thing I'm really excited about is all the work that we've done behind the scenes. Things that are probably not very newsworthy, they're probably not headline grabbers. They're things like looking through our policies, looking through our procedures, looking through our practices, and making fundamental changes to what we're trying to do. They don't get headlines, but they do make a huge difference.
Recruiting more students of color. How do you do that? Because sometimes I hear, and I don't know if that's the case here in Brockport, but when it comes to teaching or whatnot, folks will say we need them to apply in order to bring them on campus. Has that been an issue here? And if it hasn't, how do you go about making sure that there are more people of color on campus?
I am so excited about the ways in which we've been recruiting students of color. Back in 2009, we had 9% underrepresented students. We now have an incoming class of about 26 or 27% underrepresented students as freshmen. About 23, 24% of our transfer students are underrepresented students, students of color. And we have done that as a really, really active process to recruit students. We've gone to New York City, we've gone to, we've used data and data analytics, we've gone to schools that we have a history of having good recruitment from, and we're continuing to work very closely on that process. So I'm very happy with the number of students that we're recruiting from underrepresented groups. What we really need to work on now is making sure that the faculty and staff look like the students that we're recruiting. And that's a harder project, but as important, if not more important, to ensure that we have an opportunity for underrepresented faculty and staff to be successful in a career here on campus.
I think it would be safe to say that the relationship between the school and the mayor of Rochester was strained earlier this year. Have there been any conversations or any movement in healing that relationship?
So I know that one of the things that's always been really important for us is an excellent relationship between our Rochester Educational Opportunity Center and the mayor, and I know that that relationship is going really, really well. We continue to work closely with the city as well as the county on any of the issues that arise.
All right, so we're going to put COVID and race relations aside. Any other projects, any other efforts on campus that you're excited about at this point?
There's so many things that we have an opportunity for right now. I'm delighted that our first doctorate in nursing practice will be starting very, very soon. We had to have a slight delay to that because of COVID, of course. Nurses had other things on their minds than pursuing their doctorates, but that's our first doctorate, and for me, that is so exciting. I'm really excited about the fact that we have so many graduate programs that are online that are really looking to adult learners to come back and to be successful on our campus. And I'm really excited about something called a degree completion program. What's that, you say? Well, that's actually all about making sure that people who have some of a degree but not a full degree have the opportunity to come back, get that important credential, and move on with their careers. So those are the things that are really taking a lot of energy right now.
Anything else you'd like to add that I might have missed?
The College at Brockport has changed to SUNY Brockport, and we're very excited about the ways in which we're calling ourselves SUNY Brockport again. That puts State University of New York front and center as who we are and our identity. And for me, that is most important because SUNY is 64 campus strong, and we're so thrilled to be part of it.